I know you want to learn how to take those crisp, cool portraits that you guys see with that super cool background. I'll throw some examples up on the screen here. These kind of shoots you usually see when it's somebody's birthday, personal creative project, or if you're just that artistic type of person trying to show off whatever your artistic side is. Nevertheless, whichever person you are, I'm going to show you guys my process. Let's get straight into it. All right, first things first, let's talk about setup. Now, at the time of this recording, I'm not at my studio. I can't show you guys an in-depth of every single piece of equipment that I own and how my setup is. So this is what we're working with for setup. We got our gray backdrop right here. And as you can see, there is a wooden floor. Most of the time, when people are taking in-studio portraits, they have either a roll-out paper backdrop that people can stand on that creates that curve that you guys can see. Or some studios actually have, I think it's called a cyclone wall, where the wall itself curves up just like this. Regardless, I don't have the fanciest backdrop, but it's all about using what you have access to. Moving on to lights, I'm using 3 lights. They're all Westcott FJ400s. I'm using a main light, a fill light, and a hair light. If you guys are just starting out and you don't have any lighting equipment, invest in it. It is important. There's really no way to have a successful indoor shoot without any proper lighting. I'll show you guys exactly what I mean. Here's a picture of me without any lighting in that same studio, same backdrop, and here's the difference between lighting that is syncing at the same time that you're snapping your camera. It just makes everything more crisp. This was about a $1,400 investment for all 3 lights, and I say that it was well worth it. It came with some tripods as well. Definitely invest in some good lights. All right, let's get down to camera equipment. So I'm using my Sony a7 IV, and attached to it, we're using the starter lens that goes from 28 to 70. The lens itself isn't that great, but when you pair it with some lights, it transforms the image completely and turns it into a stunning photo. Set my ISO for the shoot to 100. I had my shutter speed set to 1/125, and I had my aperture set to 8. Pro tip, make sure you guys invest in a white balance calibrator. It's like 15 bucks on Amazon, and it really balances the tones. Just take it off that auto white balance and try to get the exact tone that matches your lights. All right, once your setup is ready, it's time to bring in your subject. As a photographer, posing is on you. With this shoot, I kind of was just giving him the basic poses that I do for men. Just, you know, cross arms, grab the hair. These are pretty casual. Just play music during your shoot and they should get into their groove really easily, and posing shouldn't be that hard. I mean, just tell them to start moving around, really. I'm not the best at posing. I know there's some photographers that have a list or a pose book that they show their clients, but it's really all about the vibes in the studio at the time of the shoot. Whether you're playing music or if they bring their friends into the shoot themselves, you just got to make sure they feel comfortable enough to pose as their true self, really show off their personality. Another pro tip, make sure to keep your camera on a tripod. I know it's cool to freehand stuff, but it saves you a lot of time in post when you're using the grid lines on your camera and you're keeping the camera very still. You don't get any blurry shots. Again, blurry shots are cool sometimes. I digress. I just think it's best to keep your camera on a tripod for those still shots, and it does save a lot of time in post. All right guys, for the next part of the video, we're gonna be hopping onto my computer. I'm gonna be screen recording. I'm gonna be showing you guys my culling process, my Lightroom process, editing, Photoshop, all the works. So I'll see you guys in a second. All right guys, once you get home from the shoot, go ahead and pop your SD card into the computer. For my culling process, I was just gonna let him pick all the ones that he wanted to post on his social media, and he came back with these 13. What you guys are gonna wanna do is separate your raw files from your JPEGs. As you can see in one of these photos here, they have an ARW on it. That's how you know it's a raw. This is my Lightroom file. I'm going to open that for you guys here in a second. We're using Lightroom Classic for this. I'm going to open up this basic tab. Essentially, when you're in Lightroom, you just want to be adjusting all these basic settings right here, and then you're cropping, of course. As you guys can see, the raw photo by itself is super dark like this. So when you take it into Lightroom, you can boost all these settings right here and get that perfectly lit photo. Once you guys made all your edits in Lightroom, go ahead and open up Photoshop. All right guys, so once we are in Photoshop with our image, we're gonna go ahead and select our subject using this tool right here. Photoshop 2025 is amazing. As you can see, it does a pretty good job of masking out our subject like this. As you can see, there's some parts like right here on the foot where the shoe didn't fully get in there, the chair didn't get in there. So I'm going to show you guys how to adjust this. You're going to want to hit this tool right here, modify selection, and go to select and mask. Once you're on this screen, you can mess with the transparency so you can see what is selected so far versus the entire image itself. You kind of want to keep it around 29%. And you're just going to go ahead and zoom in with this magnifying glass tool and go to the spots that you want to get out. What we're going to do first actually is the chair. So we're going to scroll up here. As you can see, the chair is kind of in the background here. Select that chair. It's already going to get a rough outline of that. And boom, we officially got the chair in there just like that. Now we're just going to edit, make small tweaks here. On the shoe, probably going to go for the polygon tool, and we're going to go to subtract from selection. So we're just going to mask around this shoe a little bit, just like this. Take your time with these guys. It doesn't make a huge difference, but it is noticeable to somebody that's looking out for it. As you can see, when we close that up, you get rid of that section of the floor. We're going to do the same thing with the shoelace. Once you guys have everything selected here, you can actually also go and select any one of these tools on the top here, and you'll see a refine hair button. This is really good for coarse texture hair like what he has right here. I'm just gonna go ahead and hit refine hair. It's gonna make a big difference with the whole mask all together. So we're just gonna hit OK, and we officially have our subject selected. So now we're gonna go ahead and use this rectangle tool and via layer copy. You can do a feather, but this is pretty good at selection, so this is what I have right here. So now that you guys have your original image and your layer mask, the next step is to go ahead and generate a background. Once you have your subject selected, you're gonna want to go back to this first layer, and you're gonna want to do select subject again on this. You don't have to get super detailed with this one because we already have a super detailed version hidden right here. All we're going to do is inverse the selection, and it's going to select the whole background. So now we're going to type in gray background. This is a very easy way to use generative fill to come up with cool background designs and cool digital assets for you guys to edit with. We're going to let that do its thing. Give it a second. And boom. So for some reason it threw some headphones on him, but we got things like this where it's adding a chair that we don't really want. But this right here, like this is a really crisp background. It doesn't have the chair in it, of course, but that doesn't matter. This is a really good background. So what we're gonna do is unhide this layer, and boom. Look at that, guys. Very crisp background, very clean. With some editing, it'll match a lot better, and with more generations, you can come up with even more creative backgrounds. But this is essentially how I did it. So I'll open up this right here, guys. This is my final for this first image right here. My shadows were a little bit darker over here, but so once you guys have this background made, you can save it. As you can see how I have it here, gray background. The way that I did this and used it for the rest of the photos to get a consistent look is I hid this layer here, I merged these two layers, and then we just have the official gray background plus this guy right here. What you're going to want to do from here is go ahead and use this tool right here, the selection brush tool, and you're just going to want to highlight your subject just like this. You're going to let go, you're going to go to generative fill and go to remove subject. I'm just going to do that again. Just going to simply type in remove. I think remove subject might have thrown it off a bit. Boom, as you can see, you just hit remove and there we go. We got that clean background. So you can either do this with every single image by going here, doing exactly what I did for each photo, or you can just export this backdrop by itself. You can export this backdrop by itself and then just apply it to everything. Just copy the whole process for all 13 images, and you guys should get something like this. So this is where we're at after adding the same background to all these photos. And then if he was sitting or standing, I changed the dimensions of the background to match where he would be standing on the studio floor. And this is our almost final look. I'm gonna go ahead and take you guys onto my phone next, and we're gonna go over that real quick. All right, guys, for this last part of the video, it's all down to editing on your phone. There's a cool app that I like to use, and here's a quick before and after of the effects that I found on there. At this point, you can either send the photos to your client just like that with the final Photoshop version, or you can make the edits yourself. It depends on how creative the person is. You know, if you want to edit them yourself, you can charge for it. Otherwise, just let them do their thing. There's a lot of apps, PixArt, Lensa. There's a lot of good phone apps out there for editing photos just like this. So that's gonna be the whole video, guys. If you enjoyed, like, subscribe, and be on the lookout for more photography related videos.